Hey, I'm Andy Aledort, and in this lesson, I'm going to be talking about chromatic dominant voicings. So what does that mean? Well, a very wise man once asked me, he wanted to be more wise. He said, how do I connect chord voicings? Like if I had an E7 here, an E7 here, an E7 here, an E7 here, how can I connect them with chords? There's a million ways to do it. One of the easiest ways is just to use chromatic movement. But I find these things extremely useful for when you play rhythm guitar and for solos too. So let me demonstrate a few of the ways to chromatically connect dominant seventh chord voicings. Let's start with an E major triad on the top three strings here. So G sharp, the major third, the fifth, B, and the first. That's not a dominant seventh chord, but what we're going to do is we want to connect this normal E7, this normal E triad, to E7 here. So a common thing to do would be if you were to just walk up the one string and that straight chromatic movement on those two strings together. We can add a note on top, and it's chromatic, but not every single note. This one is. On the high E string, we have to go. So we're skipping that F natural. So if we run those together, we get this. We're going to move from this E7 to our next E7. You do this. So you can see it's straight chromatic. But then the last one, my E note stays there, and just the G and the high E string went up. If you left the B string out, it would be straight chromatic. We go to the next one, we would get this. So that's kind of an interesting one. So straight chromatic. Keep in mind you could do these in a variety of ways. This is just one way. Let's go from here to the next voicing. So on this last one, it's back to a major triad, not a dominant seventh voicing. And then what we did here, we're just going to repeat here. And again. All right, here's a Delta blues type finger-picked lick that uses chromatic movement, like I just showed you, in a descending manner. So I start with my E7. So I'm going to come off that G sharp to the open high E. Pick all three, and then G string, high E string. Move down. So twice on this. Once on that, once on that. And then a little. A sort of an E blues scale lick. I have a sixth in there, and I have the major third. So it's sort of Mixolydian also. So now that you have this lick, a really great thing to do, and something I love to do, is I like to take licks that are played on certain strings and then recreate them on other string groups so I can find those similar things in other positions of the neck. This way, wherever I am while I'm playing, I can find those things right away because I practiced them and worked on them. It's not like, oh, I only know it here, so I have to do it down here. And you should do that with everything. Anything you play, try to envision it everywhere on the board so you can always get to it. So here is another take on that first lick, but not on the top 3 strings. It's going to be moved to the D, G, and B string. So here's my E7 here, same as this, but instead of going and having to take my finger off of the high E, it's over there. So I could keep these 3 notes. And just a little blues scale lick again. If we move it up one more time, instead of the D, G, B, we move to the A, D, G string. Those notes, B, D, and G sharp, B, D, G sharp, B, D, G sharp, is going to be here. And you could play something like this. Another way to use this idea, instead of playing 3 notes that are all adjacent to one another, you can just use the 6th, meaning the outer 2 strings. So we had started on the top 3 strings, and the 6th would be on the 3rd and the 1st string. Then we moved to the D, G, B, so the 6th would be on the 4th and 2nd string. And then we moved to the 5th, 4th, and 3rd strings. So our 6th on the 5th and 3rd string. So let's wrap up with a lick where I'm just going to use the 6th, and it's going to be chromatic all the way down from up here all the way to down there. So that wise man will now know he'll be all the wiser for being able to connect all those little voicings. Here we go. So what did I do? I have my 6th on the 5th and the 3rd string, a D note and a B note, and I just move this down chromatically. So that's all straight chromatic. But when I get to here, the A string's chromatic, the G string has to skip one. Then chromatic again. And then here, I have to skip one. So what you see is every time when you're going from one chord tone to the next, if you're going from the 3rd to the 5th, it's all straight chromatic. If you're going from the 5th to the flat 7th, it's straight chromatic. And if you go from the flat 7th to the root, you're going to pick the root twice. But when you go from the root to the major 3rd, you have to skip one. Or wherever you are. So I'm using that finger picking again.